Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Glad to have this man back. We've got limited time today. It's Vivek Ramaswamy running for president, Vivek2024.com. Great to see you. Great job the other night in the debate. How you doing?
It's good to see you, Joe. How are you?
You dominated. Dude, you were great. Now, going into it, I said this on my show, and the people watching and listening can vouch for me. I said, somebody's going to get Chris Christie mad, and Chris Christie's going to become who he really is. And Vivek, the quote of the night has to be, and I think that it was drowned out a little bit by the audience, was, come over here and give me a hug like you did Obama. Now, now, tell me something. You're fleet of mind already. You and I have known each other a couple of years now. You never, ever have a problem with a question or an answer. You're very quick. Did you go in knowing you were going to say that, or did that just pop out?
No, not at all. It just popped up in my head, actually, because he was accusing me of being like inexperienced and an amateur like Obama.
Right.
Watching Chris Christie talk about Obama was a bit of a joke because he helped get Obama elected by giving him that famous hug. So I said, come on over and give me a hug, too.
I just loved it.
These guys were attacking me. My entire goal was to keep it pretty lighthearted the whole time. I don't think that other candidates on that stage are all that relevant, so I didn't want to spend much of my time defenestrating them as much as focusing on the issues. But when they came for me, I had some fun with it.
Well, I thought it was great. You had the audience was riled up. You came out, you said that, let's be honest, I'm the only guy up here who's not bought and paid for. I think Doug Burgum can have an argument. He's a billionaire. He's not bought and paid for either. But it was a great line because we saw so many uniparty people up there pushing more war, pushing abortion at some point, pushing this continuation of what we're already seeing. And you were really the outlier on purpose. When you walked away from it, did you feel like you accomplished something?
I think I did. I think I exposed what I think is the real debate we need to be having in the Republican Party. Let's be honest. Everybody in there is against transgender competitions in sports and against the modern woke agenda, which I've been exposing for the last 3 years.
Right.
I think the real question we need to have is, where are we on standing up for American interests on the global stage? Do you want to fight foreign wars in places like Ukraine, turning it into the next Vietnam or Iraq? Or do you actually stand for American interests when you think about how to use American military resources? Are you actually willing to call out the truth that the climate change agenda is a hoax? Which, Joe, to my surprise, I was the only person on that stage who was even willing or able to say.
Right.
Or are you going to dance to the tune of these climate alarmists? Are you actually willing to say that even if we're running against Donald Trump, and I expect to be the nominee myself, that I will pardon him on day one for these politicized persecutions, for the January 6th protesters who were wrongfully arrested, at least those who were peaceful? Are you willing to say those things? Nobody else on that stage was. And that's what I'm pressing people in this race to do is, I think without me on that stage, what this would be, Joe, is a bunch of people agreeing in a virtue signaling contest about the basic issues where everyone already agrees, versus actually getting to the hard stuff where I think I was the only person on that stage who was able to take the principled position on the kinds of issues that we just talked about.
Were you as surprised, Vivek, and it's Vivek2024.com, go and support his candidacy. Were you as surprised as I was that Mike Pence was so animated? Mike Pence got some strange coaching that said, don't be Mike Pence, be somebody else. And he kept on going after you about your youth. It was weird.
It was really shocking to me. I mean, the guy has been spending much of the last 2 years writing me, I'm not even kidding you, handwritten letters that are very personalized that I'll get in the mail from him, presumably assuming I was going to be a donor or something like this. And so I was pretty convinced there's no way this guy has it in him to actually, get that animated. I have to tell you, though, I told him during one of the commercial breaks that I was actually proud of him. I said, I'm proud of you, man. I didn't know you had that in you. Like, I didn't give you that much credit, but I really meant it, but I think he didn't take it as kindly.
I know that you don't have a ton of time here, but I want to get through some issues. And again, you and I have known each other a long time. I'm not doing anything here to be a loaded question, but you have been attacked mercilessly. I want to start with the attack from Karl Rove, who I think is a uniparty guy. He's a war party guy. Suddenly he's got an op-ed that you're just like the devil incarnate. You're just some actor, some performance artist out there, and you're not to be taken seriously. Is he afraid of you? Is that what's going on?
I think he's very afraid of me. If you look at the entire campaign cycle, even the articles he's written throughout the campaign, he said that we hadn't qualified for the debates like 2 months before. I said, my campaign reached out and said, actually, we had crossed 40,000 unique donors long before anybody else had.
Right.
And then he replied some lame response saying, well, I'm actually helping you guys because I'm setting your expectations low, which is just super lame because the guy kept doing it over and over again. The reality is I don't abide by the neocon modern vision. A guy like Karl Rove probably wants to invade Iraq all over again. He knows that as president, I'm not going to do it. And so anybody who defects from that orthodoxy is a threat to that way of thinking. The reality is I stand for American interests. Karl Rove stands for, I think, a small set of military-industrial interests,
Yes.
like many of the candidates on that stage and many of the other candidates in this party. But I do think that this is useful. We get to have a debate about who we are, not just as Republicans, but as Americans. Do we want the Mike Pence, Chris Christie, Nikki Haley, Karl Rove wing to be the future of the Republican Party? Or do we want a future, as I'm leading, as a member of a new generation, that puts the interests of American citizens first? That's a choice for our primary electorate. And you know what? If people know what we each stand for and want to go the other way, that's what people get what they vote for. But I think I'm the only candidate on that stage who offered an actual alternative, true America First choice.
You've been accused of flip-flopping on Israel. Can you give me 30 seconds? What is your stance on Israel?
My stance on Israel is I think our friendship with Israel will be stronger by the end of my first term than it ever has been, because I will treat it as a true friendship, not a transactional client relationship. What that means is I'll lead to Abraham Accords 2.0, get Saudi Arabia and Oman and Qatar and Indonesia into that pact that the Trump administration got started, make sure Iran never becomes nuclear equipped. But frankly, Joe, I also want to learn from Israel. I would love border policies and tough on crime policies and a national identity and a missile defense system in this country like they have in Israel. And no, that's not talking like the standard politician, breathing out the standard talking points you're supposed to say. But if you don't read the chapter and verse, they will purposefully misquote you, and that's exactly what they're doing now. I'm not going to let them get away with it. I speak with authenticity. I stand for America first. That's why I stand for Israel. But I do stand for America first, and I think that's the way I look at the world, and that's the way I look at leading this country.
What you said was you want your friend to stand on its own 2 feet, and you don't want us to be just sort of the financier. That's what I took away from it. Am I right?
And I also favor zero-based budgeting in aid. There's no reason that for any country, and I'm not talking about Israel or any other country, all of our foreign aid should be zero-based budgeting. Start from scratch and then ask what's necessary in a bilateral relationship that's honest to meet the interests of our allies that advance American interests. And so I don't apologize for what I say. It turns out that that's going to have us having a really strong relationship with Israel. But yes, I'm not reading chapter and verse from the binder that's handed over by the super PACs to Republican puppets. I'm an independent patriot who speaks the truth.
A couple of last things with Vivek Ramaswamy. Go to Vivek2024.com. There's a hit piece out there about your pharmaceutical company. Is there an issue with the pharmaceutical company that voters need to know about? The allegation is that you somehow changed the name or something, made billions, didn't tell somebody something. Is there anything there, Vivek? Is this just
nonsense? I mean, like utter nonsense. All of it is, by the way, people can look this up in the public domain, et cetera. I developed 5 medicines that are FDA approved. That's how I generated my wealth. Early on, 99.7% actually of drugs for Alzheimer's disease have failed. Mine was one of hundreds, if not thousands, of drugs that have been developed for Alzheimer's disease that failed. Didn't make a dime off of that, but did make, you know what, good wealth for myself and for shareholders.
Nothing wrong
on
with
the
that.
back of 5 successful drugs that are FDA approved, changing lives today. It's a $9 billion plus publicly traded company, close to $10 billion publicly traded company that I founded, built from scratch. And you know what? I think that one of the things I've learned in politics is that people have no compunction about literally making stuff up. It's actually kind of shocking, Joe. But the good news is I think the fact that they're taking that much of an interest in trying to take me down is a good sign that we're making the right people feel threatened, and that we are by speaking the truth.
You were very smart in talking, and thank you for clearing that up, because there's a long video attacking you on that.
Yeah, I got to see that. I haven't seen that, but this is like the 3rd time I got that question today.
Yeah.
It makes me.
Well, there's somebody out there trying to take you out, so again, they're afraid of you. Last question about former President Trump. You said by far the best president of the 21st century. He loved that. He's now talking about you. A lot of people are talking about a possible partnership. Have you talked to the guy? And if I know you want to be the president, you expect to be the nominee, I get it. If on the happenstance that you're not, would you mind being on a ticket with him? Is that something in the future that you would look at?
I'm not a plan B kind of guy, but here's what I will say, and I have thought about this. I want him to be one of my most important and trusted advisors, and in that first year, probably my most important mentor. I want to pick up where he left off so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel, learn how to tackle that administrative state, and I expect he will be my most useful mentor in guiding me through that first year as our next president.
Vivek Ramaswamy, Vivek 2024. I know you got to go. Great job on the debate. Keep on keeping on. And great numbers, man. You're soaring everywhere. Let's talk again soon, my friend. Great job.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. We're back after this. Stay right here.